Greetings. Let's get that out of here since I'm not paying attention to the show notes here. HG, my friend, how have you been?
I've been very well. I went on a 3-week holiday to the UK seeing family. So now I'm back in Vienna and yeah, life is good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a very long time since we've been on a show together. I mean, it's probably been 6 months maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I know I haven't been on the show in a very long time. So it's very good to get back. Here we are very at the eve of the new season starting with some big games coming up in a bit of time. In fact, as I mentioned to you, I will be attending our home opener. I leave a week from it's today, Wednesday. I will leave a week from tomorrow to go visit my daughter. My wife and I will go visit my daughter. Spend a long 4 or 5 days in London, and I get to go see the game thanks to our friend Stuart Gallop.
I love the way that you're saying, I'm going to visit my daughter and Spurs are on the side, as opposed to I'm going to see Spurs and my daughter. I mean, I love her, but
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little bit more detail how this goes down. Yeah. So here's how this happens. So my daughter is telling us that she doesn't think she's going to come home on her fall break. She's a school teacher in London, and she doesn't think she and her boyfriend are going to be able to get the time off, or he's going to be able to get the time off to come home, and she doesn't want to come home without him. So of course, what does my wife start doing? She looks at plane fares and sees how much plane fares have cratered, because obviously there aren't a lot of people wanting to come in and out of the United States, or as many. And so the plane fare prices were as cheap as they've ever been since she moved in 2017. So she went ahead and booked it. Then, of course, about 2 weeks later, she tells us, oh, actually, we can come home in October. So that's okay, because I was excited when she planned it. She didn't know that it would be at the start of the season, but I did. And so I let her book the trip, and then said, oh, by the way, do you mind if I take Saturday afternoon to the game?
Brilliant. Hey, it all works out, right? I'm fortunate enough that I get to go to Munich tomorrow to watch the Bayern game, and also get to go to Udine for the Super Cup. So this will be my Tottenham experience probably for the next 12 months. But I'm pumped too.
That's fantastic. I mean, I only learned you were going to Udine today, I think. Where are you sitting? How did you get the tickets?
The same way I always get a ticket. If you know the right person, then you can somehow wangle away. And I'm fortunate to know a very nice person who couldn't go but could get a ticket. So it happens quite a lot. And yeah, so I guess I feel a little bit guilty, but not enough. Sorry to all those who just missed the cutoff point. But yeah. So
we're going to be covering that Bayern and that PSG game a little bit later. So I think we will definitely want to talk about that. And I'm jealous. I actually, when they won the Europa League, I did look at how much it would cost and where we could stay and how to fly in. And then I thought to myself, I have no chance of getting tickets, but I was willing to maybe even just go to this. I'd love to go to the city. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, and I'm really just doing a day trip. Like I leave super early on the Wednesday to take the train to Udine, and that's just it. Like it's a train ride for me. If it was it was a plane ride, I wouldn't have done it. Like I looked a few years ago when Eintracht made the UEFA Super Cup final. They were playing Real Madrid, and it was in Helsinki, and I was just like, no, right? But yeah, Udine is close enough. So I'm literally like training in the morning, watching the game, and then taking an overnight bus back. It's luxury.
Bus?
Yeah. Oh yeah, bus.
Oh, that's commitment. Yeah, I'm impressed.
It's football. I love football, but I also, plus I did check the hotel rooms, and as you might expect, they were super expensive. And no, there's just no need for that. So
yeah. Yeah, I would think that would be if you wanted anything reasonable, you'd have to take an hour bus out of town to find anything reasonable, I would think.
Yeah, and when the game finishes at like 11 o'clock local time, assuming it doesn't go to extra time or whatever, then yeah, it's not worth it. It's not. You'll be asleep for 6 hours probably, and if you're celebrating, even less. So
yeah, well, it's definitely not going to go into extra time. I can assure you. I mean, Spurs will win that easily, handily in regular time. So I don't think we need to worry about that. All right, so we've had the club has come to a real inflection point, because we have lost a legend of the club. and that video I think just got released about his farewell. The tearjerker that came out today. That was tough. That was great though. That encapsulates Sonny in so many ways. I thought that was a great video, and his emotion was clearly evident for everyone to see, and so that gets you thinking, okay, what are our collective best memories of Son's tenure with Tottenham? I mean, 10 years now. Some unbelievable memories. What is going to stand out 5, 10, 20 years from now when you're thinking back to at Spurs? What are the things that you're going to think about and remember?
I mean, and that's the rough part, isn't it? Because there are so many. After 10 years at the club, when the club was relatively successful for the first 5 and struggling to stay at the same level for the next 5, and Son was the constant. Like, all he did was score. And it is weird to think that he almost got more important once Pochettino left, right? This idea that him and Kane up front suddenly were Tottenham for a number of years. Like, we had defensive managers who put everything in those two to score the goals, and Son often came up trumps. I think that the two that really, 2, 3, like the one I remember that people don't seem to remember, or the one that I thought was kind of cool. We played Crystal Palace at Wembley. I couldn't tell you the season. But at one point, I think second half of the game, Spurs had done their usual, like struggling to break teams down. And he took a shot from outside the area and he curled it with his weaker left foot just inside the far post. And I don't know anyone at the club who could have scored that goal in the way that he did. And I say that even though Harry Kane was at the club at the time, I just think that was Son kind of at his best. We all know what he was like when he was running at defenders. We all know that he, I still think he was quite a streaky finisher, but when he was on, and he could find the net with either foot, and he was just a massive threat. But that's the one that really stands out. Obviously, Man City away in the Champions League, those 2 early goals. It's tough because we lost that game, even though we went through, but still, to get those 2 goals early on, I think, I know I went into that tie expecting Spurs to lose. Like, even before the first game in which he scored, I thought we'd drawn City. That's it. We're done. But so for him to be part of that, and you can't forget the Puskas. But like, there were probably maybe 5 or 6 games in the last 10 years that I haven't watched live, and sadly, that Burnley game was one of them. So I feel like I had out. It was like there was a game at Bournemouth at the end of one season when he got sent off. I missed that one too, but no, who cares, right? But the Burnley game, I didn't get to see it live. I didn't get to celebrate it live, and so it's a wonderful memory that is almost like a highlight. It's not who I associate Son with.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was fortunate to see that one live. I also think it's notable, and I think it's fantastic that he scored the first goal at the new stadium, also against Crystal Palace. Yeah. My son was really fortunate when he was living in England. He was at the Leicester game. He came off the bench, had that unbelievable hat trick, which are similar to the goals you're talking about at Wembley. That left and right foot curler to the far post. He could do that with as well as anyone in the world. And I think that's definitely, those are the memories of the Man City game. There were 2 goals in 10 minutes in the Champions League, and really the whole run through that year when Harry's out, relying so heavily on him. I still have a really great memory of him when we played with Nuno and we're playing Man City at home, that first opening game. And I was at our pub here in Raleigh. We had probably 40, 50 people packed for the home opener, and that place exploded when he scored that goal. It wasn't a great goal, but it just all the pressure, all the issues with Harry Kane, all the issues with the manager search, and who shows up, runs at the defender and beats Ederson. Probably shouldn't have, but still it went in. Doesn't matter, right? I mean, those are the memories, and it's gonna be weird that he's not there. But I will say, the minute he is in Charlotte, which is about a 2 hour 15-minute trip from me, my son and I will be down in Charlotte watching LAFC. I can assure you of that. We will be there. We'll have our tickets. We'll have our son jerseys, and we'll be there screaming for the visitors, because I don't support Charlotte FC. They stole the club They stole the franchise from us. We had it lined up, and then Tepper came in, the NFL guy with a bunch of money, and bribed MLS and took our franchise away. So I don't root for Charlotte, but that's just local rivalries that nobody cares about.
I mean, it's interesting though. I mean, I think it's pretty. I mean, obviously it's terrible that it happened, but yeah, for that to be like, right, well, screw you. I mean, you don't get more football than that. Like the tribal nature of it. It's like I will never, ever, ever support you unless Son is coming to town, and then I'll go there and support against you. Never give you.
Yes. I've been to one Charlotte FC game, and that was when Inter Miami. The next game will be LAFC.
There you go, perfect.
Anyway, so we've got some things we've talked about. We're going to get into a little bit of the Bayern match, but more of the Super Cup. I think that's obviously, the biggest game Spurs have played in outside of the Europa League finals, the biggest game, certainly to start the year, that we've ever been in. But I think we really need to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we've been discussing amongst ourselves and many people about the transfer window and the ridiculous roster situation we've got on. So I'm just, for the audience here, I'm going to throw this up here. Oh, wait, we've got one more.
That was a great goal.
Oh, yes.
And weirdly enough, it wasn't even the best goal in the game, because the West Ham goal was a screamer too. But like Son just showed up. Like, even though a lot of people have said, well, the last 2 years he's fading away, I don't believe a word of it. Like, he was playing Ange ball. He was being asked to hold the ball up. We just, like, he went from being, in effect, the main finisher, because his finishing has always been extremely good, to suddenly having to be the main creator as well. Because, like, Solanke wasn't creating chances, and, our favorite right winger doesn't do that either. So I just think that Son really got a bad rap for those last couple of years, when he was pretty much the only one who was able to do that. If Maddison wasn't in the team, it was all down on Son. So
that's true.
Yeah,
and I just want to correct you a little bit. You said our favorite right winger. Now I'm going to correct you. Johnson is your favorite right winger. Yeah. Let's just make sure that we're clear on that.
Yeah, my least favorite right winger. But no, it's just. It's tough, because so many people just look at the numbers and say, well, clearly he was regressing because his numbers weren't as good. And I can't get behind that kind of analysis, right? Because that would say that Brennan Johnson is 3 times better than Mohamed Kudus if you just went on goals last season. And clearly, I don't think anyone thinks that's the case, including Spurs. So it's
Thomas Frank is clearly, we know who starting right wing is going to be if he's playing, a 4-2-3-1 or anything like that. We know who's going to be on the right.
So the one thing that I will say, and I just I understand that if Son goes to, he's going to LA. He's going to LA, and it's not going to be the pressure that he's had, in European football. They might be playing every 3 days, but the traveling will be quite tough, I guess, to fly across the country all the time. But I think he's gone there too early, right? I wish, as much as it would have hurt the club financially had he gone on a free to Barcelona, I almost wish he'd done that, because I think that going to LA it's going to give credence to those people who thought he's not good enough anymore, and I just don't think that's true. So I understand why he went, and it's great. There's a massive Korean community in California. I've got family there. It's a great place to live. But there is
easier travel for international duty at times.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. It feels sad. I don't think he's done at the highest level. And no disrespect to LAFC, but
no. Listen, right? He could have 30 goals for LAFC for the balance of the season. People are not going to, rightly so, in some respects, not going to still say he was done. It's only because he's in a farmers league, whatever, that he's able to capitalize on inexperienced young defenders who have no idea what they're doing, and that's what my son would say anyway.
Okay, but good luck to him, and I guess that you're going to be watching them. I'm sure a load of Spurs fans will follow their results now, and I don't think many Spurs fans, certainly this side of the Atlantic, care that much about MLS. So now they'll have another league to follow, and obviously Hugo Lloris is there. So there is a relatively large Tottenham link, but we're all going to follow. So because he's just turned 33, I don't think he's that old. But
no, he's not. I think he's got, the issue is that he's an old 33 in terms of the miles on the legs.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be fine in MLS. I mean, I've never been an MLS supporter. Any real large. I mean, when they first got started and Landon Donovan went out to the like Galaxy, and that was the collection of stars, and of course Beckham and all that sort of stuff. And I was rooting and watching, but I didn't care that much, but I'd pay attention. And now I have a reason to support a club again, because I will be all LAFC, you probably would know, has done an unbelievable job in building a supporters culture. I mean, their marches and to the fair, Charlotte FC's done the same. Well, they've done a really great job. They have great local support. It's very passionate. It feels like a European environment a lot of times when you listen to the crowd at LAFC. They're not just shouting, "Here we go, LA, here we go," type of crap, right? So they have their chants, they have their flags, they've done a good job. They really have. And so I won't have any trouble supporting LAFC. The problem, of course, is the games come on. They start at like 10 local time for me, or 11 local time.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not going to see a ton of them. But when they play on the East Coast or when they play on the weekend day games, I'll definitely be checking them out.
Yeah. We miss you, son, already.
Yeah, that's right. So on to this issue with what is it? Some Spurs, but only Korean fans will watch this one. No,
I don't think many Spurs fans. I mean, the Spurs fans in LA may well make the trip. They may well, because there's a big Spurs community in LA too. But yeah, I guess at this point they're Sunny fans. It'd be interesting to see how many Koreans still make the trip now if Son's not there. Because the thing is that if you're Korean and Son's your most famous player and he's your best player and he's been at one club for so long, could you move because of him? Like I don't know. Like if you've invested so much time at this point, would you stay a Spurs fan? But I guess we'll find out.
It will certainly help, obviously, if Yang becomes a first team player and is a important first team player. If he's someone who just spends 2 or 3 years on loan and then disappears, then that's not going to help. But a lot of people are cynical when we purchased him, and I don't think it's being cynical to consider your commercial interests when you're bringing players in, particularly when Korea has been such a huge part of the revenue story for this club for so many years. I don't think we all want revenue, because if your spending is constrained by your revenue, then you want as much revenue as possible. Yep. And as long as you're not buying players who aren't good enough, and we don't know about Yang's good enough or not. He looks pretty good, but he's way too early to know whether or not he's going to be valuable to us. But if he comes along and develops into a quality forward player and gets goals and assists for the club, then I think it will help keep that fan base with the club. But I got to imagine, a ton of them are going to be showing up at LA going forward. I think they're going to see a huge increase. As they're going to see a huge increase in gate revenue and commercial revenue for shirts and memorabilia and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be pretty tremendous, I would expect. I mean, they paid $20 million, right? Pounds, not dollars, pounds, which means that for basically £2 million plus salary and bonuses, that's all they spent on maybe arguably one of the 10 best players in the club's history.
Oh, sure. Tom is a top 5 goal scorers. 454 appearances in 10 seasons, 45 appearances a season. Like, that in itself is insane.
That's a good point. The durability of the guy, given the club he played for, which is one of the least durable of anybody.
Wow. It shows how many games we've played as well. But seriously, we got our money's worth for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I see people are starting to chime in about the state of our squad and our transfer window, which I don't even think anyone inside the club can be very happy about their transfer window, and they certainly can't be happy about the injury situation that's already starting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just take a look at the roster. It's not the full roster. This is the Premier League look at it. We were talking about it earlier, and I know this is going to be small for a lot of people, so I apologize.
Yeah.
That's the Champions League roster. Sorry. Let me.
We'll start with the Champions. You want to go to Premier League? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is easy. This won't take long. So the number for non-HG or non-homegrown is not 12. That's just my own lack of editing ability. It's more like 14 or 15, I think, if we count those. because I did add Kinski and Kudus.
Okay.
And then you've got your homegrown, and then you got your U21. So you can see that there's more players than you're going to be able to use on your Premier League roster, but it's going to be really easy.
No, hang on. This is the point. Like right now, every single one of those players can get named in the 25-man squad because the under 21s don't count.
Oh, right.
Right. So, in fact, based on that, we've got 21 players. Right. The issue here is that, I mean, yes, we can go out and buy 4 more players and fill the squad as much as possible. And there are plenty of people, probably including myself, who want us to do that. I want a strong 25-man squad available for the Premier League. I really do. And they don't have to be, 50 million players, but I want to have strength in depth. And, players like Palhinha are perfect because it's a loan deal. So as much as we're paying a load in wages, it's kind of like we know he's going to be good enough for the Premier League. We've seen that at Fulham. So I think that's a great signing. And yeah, I do. I kind of want to see, maybe not 25 senior players, but a squad of 25 players that we are comfortable playing no matter who the opponent is. And I don't feel that that's what we have. You take some of those under 21 players, Vuskovic has never played in England and Takai has never played in England. And, Archie Gray has still never really played in the position we want him to. So there's a lot of unknowns there. And yeah, I mean, even some of the homegrowns. I mean, obviously, I'm no fan of Johnson, but he does score. But there are plenty who want Ben Davies gone. I think he just can't really. We don't want him to be a backup at any point. And some of the others are injury prone, right? So like we've got issues, even with the numbers that we already have. And I think that for a lot of Spurs fans is a major problem.
I think that you brought up an issue. So I've got Vuskovic highlighted because we expect him to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Madison, we haven't been confirmed, but it looks like it's, if not season, it's most of the season.
Yeah.
We don't know the details yet, but it's not good. So those 2 players are probably unlikely to see any Premier League minutes this year, certainly not till the back end of the season.
Yeah.
Thomas Frank confirmed in a question to Alistair Gold, asked him, did he think he had enough fullbacks? Strangely enough, Thomas said, yeah, I think so. And he's counting Davies as one of his fullbacks. Yeah, so that means that you've got 4 fullbacks and they're not looking to bring one in. That's a position I think that needs to be strengthened significantly. I mean, I have no problem. I mean, Davies is a great guy and he he's versatile. He can do lots of things. And I guess what he's planning on doing is that back 3 when in possession with the right back going forward into the attack and Davies slipping into the left side of a back 3 when we have the ball and when he plays. I assume that's probably what we'd see, which is fine. But, one-on-one defending at the Premier League level is not really going to be something he's going to be dramatically accomplished at, I think, going forward.
And this is the funny thing. Like, I think that, most fans understand that you want to have 4 good options or 2 good options for every position, right? And that if there is a third choice for multiples, then I think for a lot of Spurs fans, well, we would like Davies to be that guy, like third choice left back or third choice left centre back, then great. It appears that the club have decided that they want youngsters, maybe someone like Takai to be the third choice left centre back instead of Davies. And obviously that's the cheaper way of doing it. There's no 2 ways about it. Like if you want to buy a player that you think good enough for the first team, then they'll cost more than someone like Takai, who's a young investment and we hope will become that kind of player, but we just don't know right now. And it does seem that the club policy, and I probably shouldn't say policy, but the club, they are quite happy to invest big money on players that they think will be in the first team, will improve the first team. But for those who they're not sure about right now, they don't want to invest big money. And I guess that makes sense. Or maybe we just don't have the money to do it more than 2 or 3 times every summer. But, we spent big money on Kudus this year. Last year we had Solanke. The year before, obviously Tell is pretty big money too. Like it's not like we're not spending, but the money that we are spending goes to those who are either in the first team or on the fringes of the first team, and not those who are, let's say, reserves or on the fringes of reserves. And we can argue about whether that's the right thing, but it does seem to be what Spurs are trying to do.
Yeah, and I think that it's unfortunate that we let Donnelly go. I mean, it's great for him probably to be playing, but with the Morgan Gibbs White debacle, I don't know if there's another player out there that you can bring in at this point at the number 10 that's going to help you, because it sounds like Kulusevski's probably not going to be available and fit for regular, starting games until probably at best it's going to be mid-September, more likely October.
Yeah, I mean, you know more than I do about that, like, because he got injured just before the Europa League final, so that would mean 4 or 5 months out with this injury. I'm glad that you said September or October, honestly, because at the start of the season, we don't have that many games. Like, we're playing once a week until the Champions League starts, in effect. And so, once the Champions League starts mid-September, if he's back early October, mid-October, then he gets named. And when the fixtures really start kicking in, we've got him around. That's great. I guess my fear is that it was going to be longer than that.
Yeah, so let's go to the real problem, which is our Champions League roster. Because Premier League is not we don't have as many people as we want in the right positions. We're not as strong as we want. We're not as deep as we want. But to your point, we don't have any problems with the numbers. We can fill out the roster and all that sort of stuff
easily.
It's a Champions League roster, and this is going to probably be even smaller. I apologize to everyone. But here's the issue is I'll let you explain it, but it's really the club trained issue that we have clearly going to be fixing by the 27-28 season. We're going to be in great shape if we are ever in Europe again. But
I mean, and the funny thing is, like, it's even next season, because as much as people like Gray and Bergvall won't be club trained until the season you mentioned, they will go on List B next year, and List B can basically they're like the under 21s in the Premier League. Like, you can have as many of those, and it doesn't matter. So people like Gray and Bergvall will be a great help when it comes to the UEFA squads next year. But right now they count as senior players, and as you can see, we have a lot of people that count as senior players, people that haven't been at the club long enough to count as List B or club trained or whatever, and so they are added to the list of foreigners. I'm assuming you've done something similar with the yellow here, that these are the players.
Yeah, because there's a question mark of whether Basuma is going to stay at the club. Obviously, now that Paulina's come in, is he expendable? Does he believe Gray is good enough and ready enough to pick up minutes in that spot? Obviously, Dragusin, he had an ACL. He is not going to be able to be. He's not going to be playing until 2026 in any significant capacity, in my opinion. The information about Kulusevski is coming from Alistair Gold and Rob Guests. They do a podcast that was released today, and evidently I did hear some of it, and Gold was saying that he got information from either Thomas Frank or the club that says they think another month before Kulusevski's going to be training, and therefore you got to put a couple of weeks on top of that, obviously, before you're fit and ready to go. So Takai is also a question mark as whether or not not that we're going to send him anywhere, but whether or not you would name him. I don't see why you would at this point. I don't know. Maybe you would. It just depends, because
I think the biggest issue we have, because there are probably 12 names there that we know are going to get named, right? 12 or 13 names that if they're fit, they will be part of the Champions League squad. The issue is that only 3 of them are centre backs, right? Which is, 3 are, let's say, starting centre backs, which is Romero, Van der Ven, and Danso. Though 2 of those get injured quite a bit, we've seen. And Davies, of course, is there that could possibly do it as being the 4th. But if Davies is that position, then who's the sub left back? Or you're basically at a position now that Spurs can name 22 players, and that's that's 2 players for each position. And that's the struggle. Like, at some point, we're going to have to choose between, do we want an extra attacker or do we want an extra defender? And we saw last season, we
lost Spence.
Yeah, exactly. We went with the extra attacker in the first half of the season, which was probably Werner. And then afterwards, we changed it to Spence because we realized that actually we were screwed without having those defensive numbers. And I suspect it's going to be similar this year. I personally would rather have name as many defenders as you can, not as many as you can, but like I don't want to be top heavy. I want to have the defenders available because we know that our centre backs, especially, they're not capable of playing every 3 days for 5 months. I mean, who is, right? So, and also the injuries they get tend to be long-term ones. They're not, niggles here and there. And so that's the tough thing. I know that some people are saying that Kinski might miss out because as a foreigner, like, would we be okay doing Vicario and Austin as being the two for the goalkeeping position and having someone like, Luka Gunter be the third? But I don't think we'll do that. I think we need to have Kinski around because I don't want to play Champions League games with Austin there. And so that you are left with maybe one or two names that will be decent contributors to the Premier League squad who won't be in the Champions League squad. And that might be someone like Archie Gray. Obviously, Maddison being injured means he probably won't get named, but we all want to see another signing come in to replace Maddison because we're going to need someone like that in our squad. So there are going to be a couple of players who will be playing in the Premier League and will be basically domestic competitions. Like, it's not just the Premier League, it's the FA Cup and League Cup too. And there will be 8 games that they won't be available for. And I personally don't have an issue with that. It might suck for them that they don't get the opportunity, but that's where we are. And we then have to figure out which ones are least important to what we want to do.
Well, I think that let's tease up, if they're going to bring in some more players, let's say Vucevic does go out on loan. We haven't had Brian Hill or Manor Solomon on either one of these lists because we assume they're on the way out. By the way, some people have already heard this, but again, trivia here: second longest serving player on Spurs roster now is Brian Hill, which is just a remarkable thing. So those two people won't be part of Thomas's plans. There's a question mark on Basuma now that Paulinho has come in. He's already declared that he doesn't think we're going to bring in a fullback. It doesn't look like we're bringing in a striker unless there's a late bid for Richarlison that they like and Richarlison accepts, which is a big if.
Yeah,
he clearly is happy at the club for good reason for him. So now the question is, we've addressed right wing in a pretty good way. I'm very happy with that signing. I think it's going to be a good signing for us. So now we're talking about center back. I've heard they've looking at another senior center back possibility with looking towards Romero being his last year potentially with the club. And then we've brought in Paulinho on a 1 year, so that kind of helps at the center midfielder position. But there's still this gaping hole at attacking midfielder. I mean, it's just a gaping hole.
Yeah, and this is it. Like I can see Paulinho being another Timo Werner in the fact that we will loan him and then we will loan him again because Bayern don't want him, right?
Right.
And there's really no benefit to Spurs to shell out. I mean, like, again, at 31, paying £20 million, I actually don't have an issue with that because I think he's that good and I think he would prove to be that good. But I understand there are lots of people who think, well, if you do that, you're throwing money away because he'll just leave on a free in 2028 or whenever. And sure, that's the case, but Spurs need experience. We need to have players that have been around the block a lot because, Romero is probably, outside of Davies, Romero might be the oldest outfielder we've got. And he's 27, I think. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have...
what is Bentancur? Bentancour's 26.
Yeah, I mean, but they're all around that age, like 26.
Yeah.
Like, no one's really between, apart from Paulinho, who's come in, no one's between like 27 and Ben Davies, right?
Right.
And when I was a kid, I was always told that the prime of a player was between like 26 and 31, when they've gained experience and they know what to do. And Spurs, in some respects, may not have enough of those. We've got a lot who are 26. Or around that age, like, Porro's around that age, but still, I think that Paulinho, I don't think he's going to be a 1 year deal only, like, unless he gets a massive injury, which is always possible. I can see him. I can see him being at the club for a number of years, and we need someone like that. I really believe it.
Yeah, I think that peak years now, because of the number of games that people are playing now, the number of, international spots now that those tournaments are expanding so much. You got a 48 team World Cup, you got expanded Euros, you got Nations League, you got all. So everyone's playing more games. I think they're playing games earlier, senior football, at 18, 19, when they really wouldn't see that till their early 20s. So I think that peak age might be sliding back to that 24 to 29. But still, your point, there's no one in that 27, 28, 29 peak area of where they're still really quick and have all their technical abilities, but have married that with all the experience that they've picked up.
And this is it. I mean, like Romero and Bentancur are probably, they may not sign new deals, so they may not be at the club that much longer. Richarlison is of a similar age, but he's not been fit that much. Again, I don't blame him for that, but it's a fact. And so, what are Spurs trying to do? Are they trying to be a club that develops? We heard Johan Langer came out early on last season and basically said, hey, look, we want to sign younger players. We want Spurs to be a destination that they will choose, which I want that to be the case, but I also don't like that answer, because I don't want Spurs to just be a development club. Like as much as we are a stepping stone, I don't want us to act like one. I want us to think that we are good enough to keep these players for a second or even a third contract. But yeah, so it's an interesting. I mean, I see that the option to buy Polinia is 30. I think it's 30 million euros all in, which I guess is close to 27 million. Like, again, you say that's not cheap, but for me, if that person is a starter in your first 11 and you're guaranteeing that for the next 3 seasons,
it's nothing.
It's bearable. Like, as I said, I would probably try and loan him again because I think that would be cheaper. And I know that Bayern don't want him, and I don't think Bayern are going to sack Vincent Kompany at any time.
But they also conceded on Tell when they did, the buy option was negotiated down. I don't see any reason why you couldn't negotiate that one down to the 22 million if you wanted it, or like you're saying, just loan him again. I think that's the perfect solution. Probably because I'm also someone who thinks that having Paulinho backing up the likes of Berval and Bentancur and Sarr and other and whoever maybe we could play at attacking midfield, Kulusevski, makes a huge difference. It just changes things dramatically to have a player like that, assuming he can perform the level that we last saw him play at. I mean, that's a big
this
assumption.
Is right now, midfield next summer will be our biggest need, and it's already a pretty big need because we need attacking midfielders. But if Bissouma's out of contract and Bentancur's out of contract and Paulinho's gone back to Bayern, for example, that's 3 senior midfielders that we'll need to replace. And I'm still not high enough on Sarr that I want him to be a main man at Spurs. Bergvall will still only be 19, 20 when that happens. It would be tough to rely on him at that age. So we're going to need, some upcoming midfielders who are probably 23, 24. But again, that's next season. And that's the problem with Spurs, is that we've got this bloated squad. We've all got enough. I think we've all chosen a number of players that we expect to leave or that we want to leave. But the long-term thinking just hasn't really been there. We've got a logjam of right-footed defenders with Dragusin and Danso and Romero. And if Romero goes, we'll probably want another one. And the young Japanese guy, although he's played left-sided, is right-footed. Like, it's just, there doesn't appear to be much of a long-term plan. It's still about fighting fires, and I wish we were better, because I don't other teams seem to be able to do it, and they don't need to spend a fortune to do it. But I feel like Spurs, I mean, it's weird. Like, either they don't know European football well enough, which I can't believe to be true, but there are players out there, and Spurs pay good money. They don't pay the best in the Premier League, but if you account to all the teams in Europe, they pay good/very good money. So I don't think it should be an issue. But for some reason, we're either going for the Madison Solanke types who are kind of last contract. This is the highest we're going to get, or we're going for the 18 to 20-year-olds who haven't really proven anything. And there's got to be something in the middle, which I think that's.
Well, I mean, that's what the Kudus and the attempted signing of Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, represented. For the first time, they're willing to put down, serious money on players in their prime to come and play for you. And that's something that we've not successfully done. Son was not even a first choice transfer. Some guy who was playing at West Brom was really the first choice, I think, that summer. What was his name? Saido Berahino or whatever that. Yeah. So I mean, you have that situation. We've gone out and gotten. I mean, I think Romero was before that was the player you went out and spent serious money on. Van de Ven, serious money, but young, not in his prime. But
Romero was pretty young when we got him. I mean, that's like, but I mean, I've said this plenty of times, so maybe people have heard this before, but like, we got good when we got good because we signed people like Vertonghen and Eriksen and players who were in that 21 to 25 category who had played a lot of games for their previous club and had kind of established themselves at a European level, let's say. Maybe not the highest level, but they were regulars. They played senior football for a long time. And we went and got them and they developed more with us, right? So you can include Son to that list. Yep. And we built a team. These players played for 2 or 3 seasons at Spurs before we started to see the improvement that we got under Pochettino. Like, Lloris joined in 2012 and Dembele joined in 2012, and it wasn't until Pochettino
wasn't until 2015.
There you go. And I feel like Arsenal did the same. As much as it pains me to say it, they did the same kind of thing. They bought players who were in their early 20s, like Odegaard and the defender I hate with the teeth. What's his name? Gabriel. There's a whole bunch of them, and Ben White is another. They did the same, and now they've got to a point where a lot of that team is 26, 27, but they've been playing together for a long time, and if they want to be, they are very, very good, right? I hate saying that, but it's true. Thankfully, Arteta has them being defensive, but generally speaking, I think that's a very, very good squad, and Spurs really should have. We haven't done that again, and I wish we had have. I don't understand why we seem to have avoided that 21 to 25 age group. Maybe because those players don't want to join Spurs. Maybe they want to go to Newcastle or to Arsenal or to whoever, because there seems to be a massive logjam for players. Every club wants players in that age group for logical reasons. Newcastle have tried to get Ekitike. They haven't been able to. Sesko, they haven't been able to. They're looking in that age range too. And I think if Spurs, maybe had Spurs tried to do it, we would have struggled as well. Like, would Kudus have joined Spurs if other teams had been interested? I don't know. Like he said, he only wanted us. But do you know what I mean? So it's rough because everything I'm proposing is probably what maybe the club wants to do, but can't. Right? We don't have the pull that maybe we did 15 years ago. Which is crazy to think, given the size the club is now, but that is kind of, we are known even more now as the nearly men, and sadly, one Europa League isn't going to change that in the eyes of many footballers. But
and having Champions League football also doesn't guarantee you people want to come to you, because it does come down to not that we pay poorly, but we don't play Manchester United wages, we don't play Chelsea wages.
Yeah,
by the way.
Go on, sorry.
I saw this. I want to bring this up. This is a slight digression, but I'm going to forget if I don't bring this up.
Okay.
So Chelsea just signed this guy. I don't know if is it pronounced Hato?
Yeah, Hato, yeah.
Yorel Hato?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's their 49th player that they've signed in the last 4 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, now wait a second. Now there's more to this. If you look at Manchester United, just take a guess of who their 40. If you go back 49 signings ago for Manchester United, what year do you think that was, and who do you think it might have been? I mean, this is an impossible question.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. I'll tell you, it's 2014.
49. It's 10 years of 49 players. Okay.
More than 10 years.
So we're looking at someone that Van Gaal bought, probably. That's crazy.
Yes, it is. It is. It's Ander Herrera.
49 players.
That's 49 players ago for United.
See, now Liverpool. Now, of course, I want to know how many 49 players ago was for Spurs, right?
I don't have that because
somewhere
the post
in
social
between,
media
right?
didn't tell me.
Like 2016, maybe. I don't know, but
that's what I want to try and figure that out. I was hoping maybe somebody would do that. So if you go back to Liverpool 49 players ago, it's Nathaniel Klein.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Similar to Man United, if not even further. Wow.
Sorry, I digress. So my point was that, Manchester United still has signed some pretty big names this window. I still don't think they're any good, but they signed some pretty big names, and players who are clearly not going there for Champions League football. They're not going for any European football. They're going there because they're getting paid big wages. And we, to your point, had someone else come in for Kudus. Morgan Gibbs White was available to us because I think that City wasn't coming in that strong. Maybe, I don't know, but we do struggle finding that player because we aren't going to pay them $250 plus, like some of these other clubs are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Spurs should go out and spend, give serious wages to people that haven't proven themselves. I mean, we've done that as well with Ndombele, and it didn't work. But there is this that I feel like we're swinging between the pendulum, both ends, and at some point it's like, you know what? Like maybe we can't get the best 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds, but there are players out there. When we've proven it, there are players out there who are at bigger clubs, who are maybe on the fringes of those clubs, and they want to play regular football. That's how we got Bentancur. That's how we got Kulusevski. And both of those players improved Spurs. It didn't matter that Juventus thought they were rubbish. That helped us. It's all about how you use those players. And to be fair, and I say this, Thomas Frank, from what I've seen, from what he said, I feel like he has a much better understanding of how to win a football game when you don't have the best players, right? And for
clearly,
Spurs,
there's no question about that. I mean, you look at the center backs that he made into viable fantasy league players, quite frankly, and those are not guys that anyone had any hopes of being top center backs. He did amazing jobs with that squad.
I don't expect Spurs, at any point really, but certainly for the next 2 seasons, I don't expect Spurs to go into games and dominate, 90% of them. Right, we were good enough to do that 10 years ago, but we're not good enough to do that now, or 8 years ago, or whatever it was. But I do want us to put ourselves in the best position to win every game. And we're going to talk about PSG. This is probably a good thing. Yeah, and Ndombele. See, it's not that long ago, but yeah, we talk about PSG. We play them next week, and the best way of Spurs to win that game is to keep it tight. I firmly believe that. I know that was never what Ange would do, but I fully expect, based on what Thomas Frank has done at Brentford, when he played bigger teams, he set the side up differently. We saw a little bit when it came to the Arsenal game in pre-season that we were, solid, but, unspectacular, apart from the goal itself.
Unspectacular is correct.
But we put ourselves in a position to win the game, and one moment of magic, and we did, right? That's what we're going to probably see next week against PSG, and that's kind of what I want to see. I don't want him to go there and be like, actually, this is probably the best 11 to play aesthetically pleasing football and win games. Like the 11 that start against Burnley should be very different to the 11 that start against PSG, just by the nature of those games. One is on a neutral venue, one is at home against a promoted team. Like, you should be more attacking in the Burnley game. Like you will probably watch a better game of football than I will, right? From Spurs.
Well, let's just make this clear. I just want everyone to understand this right now. I have not seen Tottenham play. I've not traveled to see Tottenham play live many times. I will admit, I live here in the States. It's not an easy trip. It does take a little bit of coin to do it. I have traveled to see them 4 times. Mm-hmm. Their record in those games is 0-0-4.
I didn't know that. I didn't know, Jack. Just wait for your daughter to come. Like, you don't need to go to London. It's it's just full, and there's lots of people. And wow.
Well, I'm going to London. I don't have to go to the game. I'm coming to London. I
suppose that is true. I suppose that is true. But no, but it makes sense though. Like, I do think, like, part of me, even though I'm going to Munich tomorrow, part of me wants to see us go to Munich and say, you know what? it's a practice run for PSG, right? We've not seen.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I want to know what is your they were going to do two lineups here. What is your preferred? If again, HG has been appointed, your dream has come true.
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to get to fill out the team sheet for the PSG game.
Okay.
What are you putting on that sheet? And then after you do that, let's talk about what we think is actually going to be the team.
Okay. Well, like I understand the whole, to dare is to do. And I mean, to be fair, we've seen the teams that gave PSG the biggest games last year were, sadly, they were Villa and Arsenal and Liverpool. Those were all tough games for PSG, and they didn't change.
And Chelsea.
Yeah, well, I didn't even watch that, so it doesn't register.
I did. I watched it. They were abysmal. They were absolutely. I've never seen PSG. That PSG team has never been that bad. But
I suspect that none of those clubs decided, oh, it's PSG, we have to change who we are to try and counter the fact that they're very good. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like Chelsea played the way they want to play, and Arsenal play the way they always play, and they may change personnel a little bit, but they didn't change formation. They just, they upped their game because they knew they had to. And I just don't know. Like I guess I'm cautious enough to think that actually, given the fact that we are struggling in midfield for players, and given the fact that, at least for creative players, and I personally believe that if you look at PSG's best midfield, it's Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha and João Neves. Yep. Like, I think, Fabian Ruiz is a goal threat because he gets forward on the end of crosses, but I feel like a lot of PSG's threat actually comes from out wide, right? They've got
clearly
they've got Maradona and they've got Barcola and Dembele, and the fullbacks bomb forward. What is that? Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. Yep. Like, that's where.
Well, and I think their right winger may be the best right winger in the world.
Yeah, and I've probably not said his name. I've forgotten who it is.
The name escaped me because we were linked with the kid.
Oh yeah, Doué, of course, Doué. That's the one I forgot.
He's amazing.
Like, if you think, and I expect a lot of their real threat to come down the wings. I do think that. Then I would want to have a system that might say, right, we're just going to double up in that area, and I don't think that means a 4-5-1. I think that means a 5-3-2, and those kind of right side, the wide defenders in the three will be people like Romero, who's quite happy to go out wide, and will be people like Van der Ven, who's quite happy to use his pace down that side too. And so this idea that it also allows your wing backs, who would most likely be Porro and Spence, to actually get forward as well, right? Because Porro is a more creative thing. So maybe Spence would be more of a defensive wing back, and Porro would be the one tasked to try and get forward if he can, and we'd allow whoever is behind him to deal with Kvaratskhelia. I just feel that might be the best way we have. The problem is that if you do 5 at the back, then you're probably going to play 3 in midfield, because you'd need to counter the fact that they have a very good 3 in midfield. And then, then what do you do up front? We don't have, Solanke doesn't seem to be fit. Tell doesn't
an ankle, but I don't know these. I don't know that it's all that long term, but I don't expect him for the PSG game. No. I think they might think he's going to play against Burnley.
And so that's the question, isn't it? Like, are you trying to do what Ange would do and say, this is my style, we're going to play my style no matter what? Or are you going to look at it and be like, actually, given the fact we have injuries, given the fact that PSG are quite good in these areas, maybe we try to keep it tight, and whoever the front two are, which you'd want, it would be lovely if they could hold the ball up. Obviously, they would need to, but it would be nice if they had a bit of pace too, or they could actually threaten the PSG centre backs, who, again, like William Pacho and Marquinhos, are basically on the beach for most of the game, right? They don't have to do too much. But yeah, so bearing in mind that I probably would go with a 5 at the back against PSG, I would like to see us try that against Bayern, just to see, right? Just to get used to doing it. To hopefully that Bayern match tomorrow, tomorrow as we're recording, but that Bayern match will be used as a kind of test for the Super Cup game, because I think we need to do that.
So what you're saying is you would have Romero at the center of a back 3 of Danzo and Van de Ven right and left.
No, I would have Danzo in the middle. Weirdly, I would.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think it matters too much because Danso obviously is maybe a bit more mobile than Romero is. But I just feel like Romero
He's not as good a passer.
No, exactly. And like, you do want to have some kind of threat, right? You do want to, if Porro is further down the right hand side, then maybe Romero can do that too. But I just, like instinctively, like I would have Danso in the middle. But I say this, like I do think, and you talked about this idea of playing three at the back when we're attacking, when we're in possession. Like I think we're going to see three at the back quite a bit. And so whether it's a defensive three at the back when you actually have, wing backs, or when it's an attacking three at the back where one of the fullbacks is asked to push forward, in theory, you're still asking a lot from Van der Ven or Davis or Danso, and Dragustin, I think, would suit a back three quite well in the middle when he's fit. So I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I want to see Spurs do the best they can to try and get the result. And maybe I'm wrong, but to me that means trying to stop the space that those wingers and those fullbacks get. And maybe we can't do it, right? And maybe if you allow them the ball, then they will destroy you regardless. And like I didn't see that Chelsea game, right? And so maybe Chelsea were on it and they pressured PSG into making mistakes, and they weren't on the back foot, right? They decided, right, we're gonna stop you being as good as you want to be. I just don't think Spurs have the players to do that, sadly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watched the game with Chelsea. They were good. I'm not gonna. They get credit for being very organized and on the front foot at the beginning, and it wasn't as much turnovers as just that PSG's vaunted midfield couldn't hold the ball. They just were getting over. They just didn't play well. They didn't look like they were all that interested for some reason. I'm not really sure, but I have never. I mean, they were run through. This is what it reminded me of. I honestly thought that somehow Postecoglou had come in and coached PSG because players were nowhere to be found. There was space in the channels everywhere. I mean, there was just Cole Palmer was walking, a stroll through the midfield at times. It just was not good. So we're not going to see the only, the good news is that obviously all those players have barely had any time to train prior to this game next week. That is also because of the 3 weeks off. They're not going to have a lot of they're not going to have a lot of time to drill and get ready. And so that is, the advantage of playing a team that has probably better players at almost every position than Spurs do. They will not have been training together for a few weeks. So not that they can't still easily win. It's just that at least that's the one small advantage is they do. I think they're only coming into training. Most of those guys are coming back this week or something like that, or maybe early next week. So that's good. But yeah, no. So you would play a 3-5-2, but I don't think you expect. So you'd play Kudus and Tell up top.
Yeah, I think
Sar, Polina, and Bentancur.
And this is like I like the idea of Richarlison playing there because I know he can hold the ball up. We did it in the Europa League final when we were hoofing it, and he played on the left hand side. But I also think that if their fullbacks do run forward, and I would expect them to bomb forward, then that means if there is any space, it's going to be down the wings, and therefore you want Tell or Kudus to be able to exploit that if they get the chance. If we can get the ball to them, then they're the ones most likely to beat a man and do something with it. Richarlison is many things, but he's not that.
Not going to be the guy.
So and I don't think anyone believes that Kudus is a centre forward, and I don't think anyone really believes that Mathys Tel is a centre forward. But I don't think we'll be asking them to stay in the middle of the pitch. We'll be wanting them to go into the gaps where the fullbacks have left. And so again, like if it means that the centre backs for PSG don't have much to do, well, you know what? That's normal, right? But if we've got a midfield three that are mobile and can tackle and can run, and I do think Sarr will be there and Bentancur will be there and Paulinho will be there. We just don't have that creative player. But we may not have the ball enough to really not need a creative player, but you know what I mean? If you don't have the ball, then a creative player is a luxury, right? And I don't want Spurs to sit back and just allow PSG to play, but I also think that if you want players who are going to press and then they need to be young and have the legs to do it. And Kudus, Tell, Papsar, are probably your best option to do that. Like Bergvall might be unfortunate to miss out, but again, if he comes on and you ask him to do that, that's another pair of legs. But I think that's probably Spurs' best way, is to say that we need our 10 outfield players to mark everyone on your team apart from the centre backs, and we'll just leave the centre backs to do whatever they want, right? And we'll have our 10 against their 8, and that will be it, right? And we'll see who comes up on top.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play a 3-5-2. I hope to. I mean, we've been talking about this since Conte, that this squad has overall screamed for a 3-5-2 in so many respects over the years at different iterations. But I don't think that I expect to see the 4-3-3, which means I think he will start Richie with Tell and Kudus. You know, not what we want. Like you said, here's what I want to see, but I think what we will see will be a 4-3-3 that morphs in possession, like we were saying, to, with one fullback going forward and back 3 holding the ball. Obviously, Paulinho will start. I'm pretty sure Bentancur will start. The question of Sarr versus Bergvall, I think, is a coin toss. I think Sarr is going to have a bounce back year. I think he's going to have a really, really outstanding season. I'm hoping he does. I don't know that. I can't predict it, but I really think I'm very high on Sarr. I think he's got a lot of ability and a lot of upside still. But I think that's what we're going to see. Is the question will be: we've got the Bayern game tomorrow, then you've got 2 games obviously next week. I wonder if Kinski gets one of. I think Kinski's going to get one of those games, don't you?
What you mean between Bayern and PSG?
Yeah. I mean, it's been rumored that he's challenging for number 1. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just been social media talk.
I think it's more likely that he gets the Bayern game out of the 2. I think because the thing is, Udine is Vicario's hometown as well. It would be
of course.
It'd be really rough to be like his entire family is there.
Right. Yeah,
not seen in 35 years, and and Vicario is the number 1, right? He won the Europa League with us. We haven't seen enough to really think that Kinski is massively better. But I agree with you. I think Kinski has a chance to play his way into the team. I do think that. I don't think Thomas Frank sees Vicario as the better goalkeeper, or certainly with the highest ceiling. But I also think that he doesn't need to rock the boat that much early on. Like Vicario can be there. I mean, I don't think any of us disagree with that.
I don't. I would say, if we gave you the impression that we don't think that they're a double pivot, you could play a double pivot in a 3-5-2 or a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, when I say 4-3-3, it morphs into a 4-2-3. I mean, these starting positions are very fluid.
It was interesting. Like, I don't know if people saw it, but Adam Cleary does football videos on YouTube. Did one on the signing of Palhinha, and he said that Palhinha is basically in effect so good. It was so good enough for Fulham at being the 6, at being the pivot, that it allowed the other midfielders to actually focus on attacking. They went from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 with almost two attacking midfielders because Palhinha could do it. I don't think that will happen, but I think that personally, I've always thought that Bentancur is an 8 that can play a 6. I don't think he's a 6, but I think that as we saw with Højbjerg, the 2 of them to me were both 8s that could be 6s. But one was a passing 6 and one was a tackling 6. And so it worked. And those 2 together was a pretty good combination because their talents actually complemented each other. Even though I don't think either one of them is an actual 6, they could do a bit of everything, and it worked. So I would suspect that Palhinha will be there to tackle and to sit and to be the destroyer that at least I have cried out for a number of years. I think Bentancur will be the one who sits but can move forward when he wants and can move between the lines with the ball and actually just kind of make the nice, neat passes. And then in a perfect world, you'd have a 10 that was mobile and creative and could do all of that. Right. Spurs don't have that option. And so
not anymore.
Sarr right now is in better form than Bergvall. And I think that when you ask Bergvall to be an 8/10, I don't think he's really comfortable there. I think Bergvall is more like a Bentancur, where he can sit deep and he wants to get on the ball. But if you put him in forward areas, I'm just not sure he's comfortable yet. And
I don't think he sees unlike a Maddison who's played long enough to know instinctively where that ball needs to go, Burwell just hasn't had enough games at this level to know where he needs to be, and also to anticipate if I drop a ball into that little corner of the box, I know that this is what's going to happen. And he doesn't see those passing lanes. I don't think at this point. He certainly can develop. He has a skill set, but I agree with you. I think Sarr is going to be, until Kulusevski's back, he's going to be a little bit of a round peg in a square hole, but he's the best option.
I'm not a massive Sarr fan, but in games like the PSG one, or even Bayern, to be fair, who are very good with the ball, you need someone who gets around the pitch and makes tackles or makes life difficult. And Sarr definitely has the legs to do that. I don't expect Sarr to play against Burnley. I don't want him to. I would like to think that we would have enough attacking threat that we wouldn't need to, and we could make do with Palhinha and Bentancur in midfield, and then say, right, Brennan Johnson gets to start down the right, and Odegaard could go down the left, and Tell could be there, and there's one of Kudus I didn't even mention. Like, we've got attacking players, but you need to have. I just think PSG is a different task, and obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, let's kind of think about it. I think. I do believe it will be more of a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. We're not going to see a 3-5-2, although it would be a good experiment, particularly against Bayern, where the game means nothing. I mean, nothing in the sense that you could experiment and see if your players can handle it. But if they're not training it, then they're not going to pull it out in Munich tomorrow. So
I wonder how much training we've really done. Do you know what I mean? Because we flew to Hong Kong and played the game against Arsenal. And then the next day we flew off to Seoul and played the game again. 2 days later we played the game there. And then we flown back, landed on Monday in London, and then they left today to go to Munich. Like, I don't know where these training sessions are happening now. Like, after the Munich game, we've got 3 or 4, 4 days of training to really focus on the PSG game. But for the last 10 days, it feels like we've been traveling or doing promo work or playing games and not had enough time to really work on stuff. But I mean, like, the thing is, like, you
don't get the preseasons like you used to. There's too much travel. There's too many friendlies. There's too many. You don't get 3 solid weeks in your training ground to work with your players anymore. The way it is.
And I feel like there's a very good chance that had we not made the Super Cup, right, this Bayern game would have been maybe today instead of tomorrow. And we'd have a home, friendly on Sunday to kind of get everyone together before the start of the season. And the fact that we'd committed to Korea and these games that were so, like, playing a Thursday night friendly is awkward, right? Because a lot of teams don't really do that. They might play 2 games in 2 days or whatever, but it's still it feels like very much they've looked at the calendar in a Football Manager style and seen that certain dates aren't available, so they've had to move it. And Bayern, I guess thankfully this is only their second preseason game, because they were obviously at the Club World Cup too.
Yeah, the Club World Cup. They're a little behind the training. So
it's been an awkward one. Like, I feel like we played. We had the 3 games in the UK when normally we might have only had 2. Our tour was shorter than it usually is, and we rammed a couple of games in there to do that. And so, like, it's not been ideal in any way. But we've also got to play a Super Cup game, which I don't know how many of these we're going to get to play. Right, like I would say that we won't be playing in it next year.
I don't like to make predictions, but I'm willing to go out on a limb to say we won't be playing in it next year. So take this one, enjoy it while we've got it, Spurs fans, because there won't be one for at least a few years, I got to imagine. Now, we could win the FA Cup and wind back up in the Europa League, and that's the only way we're getting back into Champions League, because I don't think anyone thinks we're getting the top 4 or 5 this year. That's for sure. Not unless some major signings come in the rest of the window and in January.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, if I looked at things right now, I mean, like, it sounds awful. Like, I just want Spurs to be competitive in every game. Like, when people are fit, I think we've got a decent squad. It's not perfect, but I think you've got, if we use those players correctly and we're not like flogging them until they get injured and then we can't flog them anymore, then I think that we can handle the workload. We're not set up to deal with it perfectly, but we can handle it. But a lot of it will come on, which Champions League games are when. Right, like we know we're going to have 2 games against a pot 4 team. They might be really weak. They may be actually pretty good and just happen to be in that pot. We don't know, but it's still when you see the entire fixture list panned out, I think a professional manager would look at that and be like, you know what? As much as being home against Sunderland is not an easy game, it is one of the easier games, and so we therefore need to approach it in that manner. And maybe we'll come unstuck a couple of times, but you're looking to create a squad that can handle those moments, and the only way they're going to be able to do that is if you give them the chance. And I think, I do think Thomas Frank will do that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and I think for your what he's shown so far in preseason and what he showed at Brentford, it was what we're going to get is a well prepared team, a practical game plan that can be executed by the people that he has available to him, and hanging around the season somewhere between at best 6th to 7th to hopefully worse 11 or 12 will be where they kind of slide up and down, because there's not a hell of a lot of difference, in my opinion, in the teams that are probably like, if you look at that Opta supercomputer and you look at what they, ranked it, outside of the first, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, there's a big cliff after that to get to Newcastle and Villa. Pretty much 4, 5 or 6 through 12, 13. Is there much that separates any of those sides?
No, no. You could sit there and
say it's an injury, it's a bounce, it's a call, it's a whatever that separates you on a lot of those games.
There are maybe 3 or 4 teams that I would say are really set up to compete in everything, right? Liverpool, that means Liverpool, Arsenal, City, and possibly Chelsea, because they have so many players. You'd think they would be able to. Villa may well benefit from the fact that they don't have Champions League football, so they can rotate a bit easier. But we know that their first team is pretty good. But we also know that they've lost a couple of players who were part of the squad at the end of last season, that they tried desperately to stay in the Champions League.
Watkins gets hurt. They don't have Duran to bring in, so they've got a problem there.
And so, and Newcastle were in a similar situation to us, where they've got a pretty good first 11, maybe first 13. But they're struggling to get the players they really want, and they've got the workload that we have for sure. And so then you're looking at those other teams that are decent. Brighton have a bunch of good players and a decent manager, and they could string a very good season together and be there or thereabouts. But you're right. Like, I think the workload is a killer. We benefited last year from only being in the Europa League and focusing on it. That's why we are where we are. I'd like to think that the injuries will decrease, at least the number of injuries or the amount of time we have players out. But still, we are going to be playing games every 3 days from the middle of September to maybe Christmas, like we did last year. That's what we want. We want Spurs to progress in the domestic cups and to have to play those games. But whether we have a squad to really deal with it, who knows?
To be honest with you, I would not surprise anyone, certainly not me, if they don't even get out of the league phase, the Champions League, which would be terrible from a revenue standpoint and a prestige and, taking crap from rival fans. But for having a solid Premier League season, it wouldn't be the worst thing.
Like, again, it's all about, like, if Spurs should make the top 24, right, which means they'll have that extra round of games. They might not, but I'm not expecting them to fail in that task. I think that top 24 is there, and then after that, it's like the draw, as we saw last year. Liverpool finished top of the league and ended up drawing PSG. Right, that was how it all. You just never know. But I think that if we're in Europe after Christmas, or at least after the group stage, and then we play the games from there, and we'll see what's going on. Maybe we're out of the League Cup, and maybe we're not. And maybe the FA Cup, we get drawn against someone very good very quickly, and we struggle. That you don't know. But for Spurs to take every game and say, this is what I think is going to give us a good chance of winning the game. Maybe looking at the next game or two as well. That's what you have to do. If Spurs want to be the club that I want them to be, which is a club that really takes every competition seriously and looks to have a deep squad, the deepest they can have in any competition, then yeah. But I'm not sure the club wants that, but I want that for Spurs.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with a 3.5 out of 10 window at this point because of how everything's gone down, and we're starting to get some. We still got question marks on big players like Udogie, Kulusevski, and Dominic Solanke as far as when they're going to be fit and ready to play. So the season's starting off with a lot of hesitancy.
A little low. I mean, I don't think it's a wonderful.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I said the Paulinho moves brings it up to a 5 out of 10. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, like, to me, Kudus and Paulinho improved the first team, right?
Absolutely. So and that's a good point, because in the past windows we haven't improved the first 11 by 2 players. I can't remember the last time they did that.
No, I mean, exactly. I mean, like, obviously we need a few more. No one disagrees there. But whether we're going to find a better left back than Udogie, I mean, I think we probably could. I think there's one out there. But as you said,
yeah, I think his name is.
We don't appear to be looking to do that. So it's yeah. I mean, like, is Solanke going to be the main man? If we can create chances like Bournemouth did for him, then he might score a lot. We just, again, we needed wide players who could do that. Hopefully Tell will deliver. Hopefully Kudus will deliver, and then maybe Solanke will score 15 to 20 league goals. Like, we are hoping, but
yeah, that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, we've got to try and get the best out of the players we have, and sadly, and despite winning the Europa League last year, I don't think we did.
We didn't do it. Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, I appreciate you spending some time with me on a rainy afternoon here in North Carolina. I don't know what the nighttime weather in Vienna is these days, but I'm sure it's lovely.
I think it's quite warm. I know I have to get up in 5 hours to get the train to Munich. I'm like, oh gosh. But I'll just.
He's got to get up to get the train to the Spurs Bayern game. My heart just goes out to you, buddy. I'm really sorry about this.
Point taken. Understood. Yeah.
And on that, for the audience, any of you who are going to be coming to the Burnley game, yours truly will be there. So I'd love to get a pint or a tea or a pie or something with anyone who wants to come meet up with me. You can
all three. You need to buy Jack all 3 of those things. There we go.
I'm hoping to catch up with some of the Cheese Room folks, some of the lads at Tottenham folks, and anyone else who wants to come out and catch up. That'd be great. I'd love to see you guys. But with that, I think we've gone and covered the topics as best we can. Let's hope that we get a good, solid effort and result. A performance result tomorrow against Bayern that gives us hope that we can step on the field of PSG and not be overrun.
Yeah.
Right?
That would be great.
That would be great. All right. Again, thanks a lot, HE. Thanks everyone who joined the chat. Don't forget to check us out on X and I think we're on Blue Sky and other places that you can find us and look out for our shows. We'll be doing another show a week from tomorrow, I think, is the show that they're doing.
I'm not even sure. We shouldn't talk
about it. There'll be another show next week.
YouTube will let you know. That's how it works.
YouTube,
right?
Yes, and the social media gurus will let you know. With that, I'm just going to say one thing and one thing only. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.